Hey Pickleheads, I'm Austin.
I'm Spencer.
Welcome to the Picklehead Podcast, where we talk about all things pickleball.
We want to bring to you the latest news, the latest events in pickleball, whether it's tips and tricks that we can bring to you to help your game, maybe even a little bit of pickleball drama, maybe even some things you don't want to know about pickleball.
And fair warning, if you keep listening, you might just turn into a picklehead.
We have Colin Schick, a.k.a. Dr. Schick. He probably doesn't like Dr. Schick, but we heard something about medical school. So we're excited to have him here. He recently played in PPA Daytona and made it extremely far. We'll let him tell us how far. So, Colin, we appreciate your time. Thanks for being here with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, as you said, I'm a first year med student, and I made it to the finals of that Daytona tournament you were talking about.
Like it was nothing.
Crazy.
Just out of nowhere, man. Yeah, we thought that was amazing.
Yeah, seriously, congrats. It's something that you want to see happen that just hasn't ever happened that I can think of. Especially with pickleball being, it's just getting big within the last 4 or 5 years, But that's something that just hasn't happened in the past, so it's freaking sick. It was awesome to watch you. We were like, everybody was talking about it. Every pickleball player was talking about Colin Schick. Yeah. So yeah, we want to get to know your background. What we want to get to know when you start. We want to start with. So we know you're a tennis player. You played on North Carolina last year and maybe some years previous. We want you to kind of go into that and when you started playing tennis. When was the first time you picked up a racket?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually played tennis for NC State, not in North Carolina.
North Carolina was pickleball later on, but we'll get into that.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. But Wolfpack for tennis for sure. Yeah, I started playing pickleball kind of the summer of my last year of college tennis. I guess that's summer 2021. With my brother, we happened to live by like 6 courts, and before it got really popular, it was easy to get out there and just play kind of whenever with some of our other teammates, and my brother and I played the most. But didn't play a ton more because I was still playing college tennis until that finished up last May. And then ever since last May, that's when I've been playing like as much as I can now that I'm done with tennis.
Wow. So it's only been since last May.
Yeah, mostly.
That you've really gotten serious with it. That's crazy. Just a prodigy.
I mean, the tennis helps.
So where are you from then?
Greensboro, North Carolina.
So it is North Carolina. Okay, cool.
Yeah, another thing we heard too. So you played Thursday in singles, right? This past Thursday. Played the entire day. This was your first pro tournament, correct?
First PPA. I played
Gotcha.
That Daytona. Yeah, another one in Daytona and one in Boca.
So first pro tournament that counts.
Yeah,
and
points and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so then we hear afterwards. I'm going to fast forward a little bit, and I'll let you tell the story about the day. But I'm going to fast forward a little bit here. After playing on Thursday, you go back to North Carolina. I heard a commentator say you were going to miss your ride. Is that a true story, or what happened there?
Yeah, so I train and travel with a guy that's also from North Carolina that plays singles, Anton, and we're used to just kind of flying in Wednesday. He's got the rental car and flying back Thursday night. I was actually supposed to go to Atlanta for a different pickleball tournament that I had to pull out of. But yeah, I just didn't really know what to do. So I just hopped on the flight back home with Anton and then came back up Saturday morning.
So you had a different pickleball tournament that you were supposed to play in, but then you were like, I can't make it. I got to go play in Championship Sunday.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was a college tournament. Yeah.
Wow. So college pickleball is getting pretty big then.
Yeah, they released a pretty big schedule for this year. There's a bunch of regional, national, and individual tournaments.
And you won. I know you won because I watched it a few months ago, but you won the one in Texas, and that was super sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about that experience? I know you played Utah Tech in the final. Just a little bit about the whole experience. Was it as challenging as, I don't know, obviously it's not as challenging as a pro tournament, but what is it level-wise, would you say, compared to playing pro?
Level-wise, I mean, I don't have a good gauge because it's mostly doubles, and I haven't played any pro doubles yet. My first one will be in the morning tomorrow. But yeah, it's a pretty good level. I mean, it wasn't easy. You know, we had some close games. We lost one or two games, I think. But overall, it was really, really fun, really well-run event. Kind of the first, like, more professionally run event I've played, the cameras and everything.
Yeah, it was sweet. It looked like it was freezing cold, too.
Oh, it was so cold.
It was outside then?
I had like 3 jackets on.
Yeah.
It was at that Dreamland facility, like kind of
Okay.
half inside, half outside. So no protection from the cold there.
How did you prepare for your first pro tournament? So we have this whole Cinderella story going on where you come in and you're beating these top-ranked pros. You beat Julian Arnold, you go and you beat Dylan Frazier, and then you go up against Ben and you win the first game. We want to get into your head and kind of see what you're thinking mentally and then how you prepared, whether that was how are you drilling really often or do you just do rec games? But yeah, we want to see the head side, what you're thinking during points and things like that, and what you're thinking going in, as well as how you prepared physically.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of would say I prepared kind of every match that day, not just the big ones, the same way. Trying to come up with a game plan to execute early on, and then kind of feel your way into the match. I do a lot of drills now with that guy I was telling you about, Anton. We would only play in the beginning, and he kind of started to convince me to do some drills, and that helped my game out a lot. But yeah, it was mainly once I got into those bigger matches with Julian and Dylan, there were some videos I could watch and actually kind of develop a more specific game plan to try to execute out there early on, especially Ben. There's like a million videos of him. So that was my main plan.
So directly before playing Julian, obviously you probably had, I don't know how long you had. How long did you have before you played Julian and then before you played Dylan?
I think Julian was the match where they kept flip-flopping our court between the center and the grandstand. I got like 5 texts from the thing, you're on grandstand, no, you're on this, you're on this. So we were waiting for a while actually, but I think the Dylan match was pretty soon after the Julian match. Yeah.
So you didn't have what you kind of knew, maybe I'll play Dylan or I'll play this other guy. Had you already reviewed the video footage and figured out a game plan for either guy?
Yeah, so basically kind of right after I had played Julian, I went to that kitchen place at Daytona and was eating food, and they were playing the live stream of Stackstrud and Dylan. So I was watching that, and we were thinking that Stackstrud was going to win because he was winning, and then Dylan came back. Yeah, I was planning to play the other guy and then kind of flip-flop.
Yeah, I would have too. I would have been following Stack's route thinking he was going to win for sure. And Dylan has a completely different game. Dylan's game is completely different from Julian Arnold's game too, in my opinion. Dylan's is like a pure pickleball game.
Yeah.
He has no tennis background. I mean, I don't know how you prepare for that coming from a tennis background. But first, if you can, tell us about your match with Julian. One, he's super loud, right? I know I love the guy, love watching him.
Yeah.
But it's got to be kind of intimidating when he's screaming "Andiamo" in your face or whatever it is he's saying. I know he's saying it to himself, but if I'm on the other side of the net, I'm like, maybe I'll just go home and cry and I can just stop doing this right now. But what was going through your head playing him, and just kind of walk us through that if you can.
Yeah, I mean, going out there, I was definitely excited because it was kind of one of my first big names that I was playing. And the dip that he hits on the ball, I really hadn't quite seen yet, and that kind of, I'd say, shocked me in game one, where he was hitting these inside out ones, especially, that just are really dangerous. And he's crashing in behind it, and puts a lot of pressure on you.
Mm-hmm.
But then I started to kind of hit a couple good winners. There was a bit of a wind tunnel where we were playing. I was playing against the wind a little bit. Hit some lucky lobs into the wind as well.
Interesting.
And then that's when he started yelling and getting excited. But personally, I like that. That reminds me of like college tennis.
Right.
People heckling you, screaming, lots of energy. That's my favorite environment to play in.
Wow.
Like, for sure.
So you're just a born competitor. You like to get out there. You don't care. You don't care if the guy on the other side of the net is yelling, screaming, or anything like that. You like that. You actually enjoy it.
So Julian, if you're listening, you didn't know it, but you made him a better player, and you lost because you were too loud. All right, so same thing. You go from Julian's game. I know he puts a lot of spin on the ball. He definitely, obviously he can play pickleball like a pickleballer, but Dylan is a completely different animal. He's basically cat and mouse. You don't want to get into it with him. But after studying Staxrud, like you said, thinking Staxrud was going to win, I thought he was going to win too. After studying him, and then you're like, crap, here comes Dylan. What was going through your head before that match started, and then how did you kind of work through that?
Yeah, I was just, and now that I think back to it, there was actually a longer delay between the Julian and Dylan match. I was kind of sitting around for a while for that one. And that was kind of hard because, I say I get nervous before I go on courts, but once I'm on there is when I feel better. So
Wow.
the wait before Dylan was pretty difficult, especially knowing that he plays that cat and mouse style play, which is probably what I'm least comfortable with, just being newer to the sport and not really playing a lot of guys like that.
Right.
Main game plan was to just kind of avoid that as much as possible. Try to play a lot of passing shots, try to turn it more into a tennis match and see what happens.
And who would you say was the toughest match other than Ben? Because obviously Ben, you lost, so I would assume that might have been the toughest, but maybe someone else was tougher than Ben. But yeah, other than Ben, who was the toughest match that you had, would you say?
I don't know. Julian and Dylan were both tough, but they play so differently.
Right.
It's a little bit difficult to compare. I say, like, if I were to play them again, Julian, I'd be more scared of just because he feels a little bit more dangerous on court, being able to kind of pull the trigger whenever, has all that dip, where Dylan is going to really kind of bring you in and work you a little bit. You don't really feel like he can hit you off the court or anything like that.
Interesting.
Very cool. So with Dylan, if I remember correctly, you won the first game. He came back the second game and took that one. Now game 3 is coming up. You're like, are you thinking, okay, got to make sure we're not playing his game, we're playing my game, we're going passing shots all day, we're moving this guy? What are you thinking going into game 3?
Yeah, going into game 3, I think he had kind of in that game 2 hit a bunch of inside in forehand winners on me. So early on, I was going to try to take that passing shot away from him. I think that's one of his favorites, as well as try to get a lot more onto his backhand side, which I think he's more uncomfortable with compared to the forehand. And I think he actually got up a little bit in game 3 and put some pressure on me. So yeah, I can't remember exactly, but maybe like 4-0 or something like that. And then I came back and it got close, and then I managed to get over the line there.
Yeah, it was pretty close in the end. I don't remember what the final score was. But that's something that's not mentioned a lot in pickleball, but watching film can be so important and so good for your game. Like, I'll just sit, not that I'm good or anything, I'm like a 2.9 on Duper or something probably, but
Yeah, right.
I'll sit and watch YouTube videos for forever, and I feel like that improves my game just as much as going out there and drilling or going out there and playing, especially when you know what you're up against. So on that same thought, So you come into Championship Sunday, which is you beat everybody in your way. Just for those that might not know, I'm pretty sure everyone does. You beat everybody in your way on Thursday. It's time to play the big guy. It's time to play Big BJ. And you got a lot of time to think about it this time. But I think the advantage that you had is you were able to watch his film and have been able to in the past. You kind of know his game, and he doesn't know yours. Do you think that played a factor in that first game? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, definitely him not knowing my game as much. I mean, he basically can only watch that one match I played against with Dylan. And then for me, you know, I wouldn't say that the guy has really any weaknesses to pick on, but I wanted to watch a bunch of tape trying to pick up on some tendencies so that I could kind of predict where he was going a little bit, which is what I think he did after he had played me for that first set. Is now I felt like he kind of knew where I was going and whatnot.
Interesting. Yeah. A question that I had specifically was, so you won the first game. I think it was 11-4, and it just seemed like you hit all your shots that we'd seen. We saw the same exact Colin where he was just hitting these winner shots everywhere. You were hitting.
It was insane, by the way.
Yeah, it was insane. It's so fun to watch.
Even my wife, who doesn't play as much and watch as much, she's like, "Who is this guy? He's gonna win. He's gonna win."
People started watching singles. It's like people watch doubles for the majority of the time, but everybody had to watch Championship Sunday. You had all your drop volley backhands going in. The sickest shot ever. Nobody else has that.
So much touch. Yeah.
Going into game 2, so it was 11-3, 11-0, I think. And what I saw, I'll tell you what I saw, and then I want to see what you think. But it seemed like you more so beat yourself than Ben beat you. From what I saw, it just seemed like your shots were just slightly a little bit out, whereas before they were going in. But was that because Ben was coming in more, or was he doing something different to put more pressure on you? Or did you feel like you more so beat yourself? And not to take credit away from Ben being Ben, because, yeah, obviously he's going to come out and kill it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, definitely in games 2 and 3, he definitely cut the errors out. I think he might have given me 1 or 2 in game 1, so he immediately knocked that out. And with him reading me a little bit more, I think kind of what you're saying, me beating myself, was me overplaying, where he started to pick up on some of my tendencies. So now I was trying to push the backhand a little bit too far across, and it was 2 inches wide and 2 inches long, just in the net height.
Right.
So, yeah, that I saw that as well, because watching back on the tape, especially the third game, I felt like I actually did pretty good on my return points. But because of all those errors, I just couldn't really get on the board on my serve and never really apply any pressure to him.
Okay, interesting. Okay, so we're kind of on the same page then going into that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's what I saw as a viewer. But I know when I've played in matches, I hate when I beat myself, and I look back. I want to be beat when I play, obviously.
Yeah, because the talent's definitely there.
Yeah,
and I think BJ came into this one thinking, "Who is this guy?" Like, I think he thought it was gonna. I thought. You know, he thought maybe I'm going to wipe the floor with this guy. Like, I'm just going to, and maybe he was a little bit lax. Not to take away from your game, but maybe in that first game, do you think he was, I don't know his thought process.
I honestly think that, yeah, he came out prepared, but he didn't understand how good your backhand drops were going to be and how good your passing shots were going to be and how good you were going to be at covering the court. Because I don't think you can see that fully from video, just watching a couple of clips that he had. So I think he went into it being like, okay, I have a good game plan. I'm not going to hit it to his backhand on a passing shot because he's just going to really move me forward and I'm not going to be able to get to it type of thing.
He didn't know Dr. Schick was coming.
He didn't know.
That's the thing. He just didn't know he was coming.
So we saw Fad on the court, and I really like Fad. I think he's a sick player.
Explain who Fad is, just in case.
Oh, yeah. For those of you that don't know, so it's Frank Anthony Davis. He goes by 3 names because he's that sick. He's a singles player. You don't see him in doubles much, but he did play doubles in this last tournament.
I think he did.
I saw quite a few. But yeah, he's just specializes in singles. And I want to see what your guys' relationship is. Did you guys connect at that tournament? Did you guys know each other before? And how did you get him out onto the court? And then we kind of want to see like what he was saying to you as well.
Oh yeah, we want to know deets. Give us the deets.
Yeah, I met him at that tournament. He's a good friend of my training partner, and
Okay.
so yeah, we were kind of hanging out all weekend, talking about different stuff before all the matches, really, Julian, Dylan, and whatnot. And yeah, he stuck around and was helping me out, coaching me on the bench, but also warming me up. And we practiced the day before as well. He's really good at the cat and mouse game, so
Yeah,
it was good to practice with him and just kind of feel that out as much as I could before I played Ben.
Right.
On the bench, yeah, we had one stat that he was going to track, which was who was winning more points when the shots were, for the points were less than 5 or 6 balls. Can't remember which, because he kind of felt like if we got in longer rallies, those are the ones that really favored Ben. Whereas if I could kind of come out and fire a quick pass and keep the points short, that might be where I was favored. And I was, that's what the notepad was for. And I was favored on the short rallies in that first game. So that was kind of the plan, to try to keep on executing that.
Wow, that's so interesting. Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to hear, was what you guys were talking about and then what the game plan was. So game 1, that worked. Then what was happening on game 2 and 3? What was he telling you for games 2 and 3? Still try to keep it short, and that's why those passing shots were missed?
Yeah, I think, I'm trying to remember. I know we didn't really talk much in game 3 because, I don't think I took a timeout. I didn't really feel like I could take a timeout with 0 points on the board.
Do you regret that now?
So, maybe. But yeah, I mean, that was the main thing was, yeah, just, I think we talked about getting back to that drop shot a little bit in game 2. But overall was just kind of tracking tendencies and with Ben's game, that's where I felt like he kind of picked up on, and that's where I started to overplay in games 2 and 3. And I think more so that was trying to just calm me down and say, hey, you know what, I think you're going for a little too much here. Let's stick to your shots. You're still getting what you want.
Yeah, that's the stuff that I want to hear. And I think that's the stuff that the viewers want to hear too, is like what goes on behind the scenes and what's going on inside Colin's head in between points at timeouts and stuff like that. So that's really cool. Thanks for sharing that with us.
Mm-hmm.
So heading on to doubles, you got doubles tomorrow. You're playing with Alex Newman,
who's also a good singles player.
Fantastic singles player. Wears the visor, has great hair. How did you guys connect? How did that work? Did he reach out to you, or you reach out to him? And when did you guys decide you were playing together in this tournament?
Yeah. It was while I was still in Daytona. He was already playing with someone, but his partner was having to pull out. So he would text me, asking, how's your doubles game? My partner's going to pull out. Maybe you can slide in if you're coming to Texas. And yeah, that's just how it works. It's just on Instagram.
Did you just send him your footage from the collegiate championships? Like, my doubles game is solid, bro.
I won. Gold.
So what's the game plan for you guys going in?
Yeah, I think, as you said, we're both good singles players, so I think we're going to be driving a lot. I think the conditions tomorrow are supposed to be a little colder and windier, so we're going to maybe do some shake and bake type drive and crash stuff as much as we can. We're playing a righty and a lefty, so maybe attack the middle, try to create some confusion with whose ball it is. But other than that, just try to play as well as we can together.
And do you have a preference on side?
Yeah, I'd say I've played mostly on the left, but either way, I can play left and right. I'm going to play right tomorrow, just so I can hit a lot of my backhands. But yeah, either way.
Yeah, when you have such a good backhand, I think it totally makes sense to be over there.
Hey, going back to singles really quick, we're excited to see what's up with doubles. Let's talk about court coverage if you have a little bit more time, just for a second. From what I noticed, I don't have much of a tennis background. Austin has a much better tennis background than I do, much more experience there. but your court coverage. Zane said on his podcast, we won't say what the podcast is called, he mentioned that you're able to take 2 big steps and get across the court, whereas someone like me, if I'm playing singles, I don't play singles, but if I was playing singles, I'd probably take like 5 or 6 steps to get across the court. Did that come from tennis? Do you do that intentionally? Can you kind of, if you don't mind, share your secrets there as far as court coverage?
Yeah, I mean, I think naturally I do cover the court really well. I was good at that in singles or in tennis as well, especially on the doubles court. I covered a lot of the net and doubles. But as far as what he's saying with 2 big steps, yeah, a lot of that is trained as well, especially in college. It's kind of the idea of like bigger steps are better than a lot of little steps. And even though when you're first learning that kind of technique, it feels like you're moving in slow motion, you're actually covering more ground because the bigger and fewer steps just allow you to cover more ground and be more efficient with your footwork.
Wow. So that was actually trained with your coach, specifically movement.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
That's
really
obviously
interesting.
helped. I think Big Papa Jimmy Ignatowicz would disagree because he likes to take 1,000 steps per point, no less than 1,000. And he has pretty good coverage. But
he really does, yeah.
But he didn't make it to the finals in his first tournament, so we're going to stick with what Dr. Schick has to say for us.
100%.
And yeah, I was watching today. So now let's move to this. Will get posted later, but now we're in Austin, another PPA tournament. Singles. We'll call it a barn burner. In my opinion, and from my view, from watching, before we spoil it, let's say you played Christian Alshon, right? We were all looking forward to this match. There was no sound, unfortunately, but of course I'm glued to the thing watching it. And it was close throughout. So now I'm trying to think, you won the first game. He comes back and wins the second game. You smoked him the first game. I want to say 11-4 the first game, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's right.
And then second game, he comes back. We go into the third game. At some point in the third game, I believe you were up maybe 9-7, or maybe it got to 9-9 at some point. Walk us through what happened there. I want to know what you thought before I go ahead and say what I think happened at the end.
Yeah, I definitely played an amazing first game. And then, he came back in that second game, and then, the third game got close and anything can happen. It kind of turned into a bit of a coin flip. It was 7-all, and I actually played 2 really good points. I think I hit 2 winners, got up 9-7 there, and then lost the next point. And then he was serving for it, got the 9-all. He ends up winning 11-9. But yeah, I think towards the end, I think I kind of abandoned a little bit my game plan and was trying to play a little bit too much to what I thought his weakness was. And I was just trying to bang balls there instead of kind of play more of my game, which I was a little unhappy with. But yeah, it came down to 10-9 and I hit return. And it was in, but I called it out and there's nothing you can do. So then it was 11-9 and game's over.
And that's the point I'm referring to too. But back up just a second. What did you think, since we're pickleheads and we like the details, what did you think his weakness was or weaknesses were towards the end there when you thought you were playing a little heavy to those?
Yeah, I mean, for him, the money shot is that forehand. I mean, his forehand's really, really dangerous, but his backhand is, miles worse than the forehand. If I remember right, I think he had a one-hander in tennis as well, and he's switched to a two-hander. So, he hasn't been doing that for very long. So anytime I can get the ball there, that was good. Same thing when he's at the net. The backhand volley is worse than the forehand volley. So I was just hitting the ball as hard as I could at his backhand volley to trying to work the point and move in and play aggressive. So it was kind of more hoping that he would just miss in the end versus me trying to actually win the point.
Gotcha. Yeah, he even mentioned on Twitter recently, with his supposed beef with Ignatowicz, that if he had a good two-handed backhand, that he'd pass him up easily as far as medal counts go. And so I knew that would be one of his weaknesses. And yeah, I mean, you got to keep it away from his forehand. Okay, now fast forward to the end, which you mentioned, the end of that game. The ball he's covering the ball in the camera feed, the terrible camera feed. I think that was due to weather. He's covering the ball, but the trajectory of the ball when you hit it, I mean, it makes it look like it's clearly in. If someone wants to argue that maybe it hits the line, fine, but it looks like it's in. On game point, it looked like you appealed to the ref. We didn't have noise. Did you appeal?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and of course, these senior citizens are looking at the kitchen, even though it's singles, and on game point they're not going to say it. I'm telling you that ball was in. Anyway, you have the chance to redeem yourself in the next tournament. I guess he went on to win bronze after that.
Yeah, he did. He had a good run after that.
Which is almost as good as silver. Close. Real quick also, so still in PPA Austin, where you are currently, where you're about to play. You mentioned briefly, talk about the weather conditions. Wind is my least favorite thing in pickleball. How do you prepare yourself mentally to play in the wind, especially doubles?
I mean, yeah, like for me, the wind in tennis, I treat it the same way, and that's as soon as you get out to the courts, you figure out where it's going immediately. It really helps if there's a flag around, because then you can kind of just look where the flag's pointing. And then right then and there, you just have to, if the wind is traveling along the court lengthwise, you just have to immediately say, if I'm with the wind, I'm never missing long, and if I'm into the wind, I'm never missing in the net, because that's a bad error. So that's kind of what I do first and foremost.
Wow, that's really interesting. That's really cool perspective. Obviously, it's obvious, like going in, we all should think that, but nobody's thinking that.
Yeah.
So I think that's really good,
Yeah.
and that's a good tip that everybody listening needs to pay attention to. If the wind is with you, make sure you don't miss long. If the wind is against you, make sure you don't miss short. Yeah, that's the most solid tip you've given us so far.
Yeah, and especially if you're on that big of a stage, like for me, that's a huge stage. If I was to get there, that wouldn't be the thought that's going through my mind. My thought would be, oh, I hope I can hit a few balls over. You know what I mean? Or I prepare, I watch film, I get there, and it kind of shuts off.
That's why we're not at that stage.
Yeah. So it sounds like, and you can tell us if you agree or not, it sounds like a lot of your incredible success from that day is mental as well. Like you feel like once you're on the court, and correct me if I'm wrong, but once you're on the court, you're feeling good.
Yeah, absolutely. Once I start hitting balls, standing around in the court still waiting before the match, I'll still feel the nerves, absolutely. But once I can start hitting the ball hard, that's when it all goes away.
Wow, that's cool. I had one follow-up question, then we'll wrap things up. But you mentioned you were focusing too much on going to Christian's backhand, which is his weakness. So you put your passing shots there, and it was making you miss some, or he was just kind of holding it there because he was expecting it there. You said that you wished you had gotten more into the point and made him hit a couple more shots. What does that mean? Like, if you could describe what that means to get more into the point.
Yeah, I mean, he gave me a couple backhand errors, and not even on the stretch, just really like backhand volley right on his kind of left shoulder area. So I wasn't even really trying to pass him. I was, just trying to hit the ball as hard as I could right at that left shoulder, and it worked like one or two times. And then I was like, oh, okay, maybe he'll just give me 2 or 3 of these, and I can kind of scrape by in this match. So, I mean, I think there's one point where I just hit like 4 or 5 as hard as I could right at his shoulder.
Right.
Instead of actually, looking for the space, dipping it, trying to pass him, trying to dip one and come in. That's what I mean more by getting into the point. Is I kind of abandoned my game plan of what makes me good was just kind of hoping he would be bad for 1 or 2 more points.
Because he was for a little bit. I feel like those were you brought some errors on him. Maybe some of those he shouldn't have hit out. I feel like he hit some shots wide here or there. And so maybe that triggered in your head. I mean, it would have been mine. Oh, okay. Hopefully he hit a few more errors. I'm out of this thing. On to the next.
What I like, my biggest takeaway from what you just said is focusing on playing to win rather than playing to someone's weakness. Playing your game, what you're strong at, rather than focusing on what's their weakness, let's hit to it. Maybe that's not our biggest strength, is to hit to someone's weakness, which it's probably not going to be. Chances are. Sometimes it will be. But, well, we got to wrap things up, but we want to see, where can we find you? We already know, but our viewers need to know. Where can they find you on social media platforms? What's your @ What's your handle?
Main one I use is Instagram. It's at Colin_Shick7.
Nice and simple. Schick is SHICK, and Colin has 2 L's, so everybody knows.
Exactly.
Sweet.
Hey, and before we hang up, Colin, I guess we didn't ask you your age either. This young buck coming in here and getting
we have no
silver in his first tournament. Come on now.
Yeah, I'm 23.
Okay, and single? Are you currently single? Oh, okay. All right.
Not on the market.
I was just letting the ladies know out there just in case, but he is not available. Not available.
He's loyal too, so watch out.
For sure. Hey, thank you for sharing all of this with us. It's been amazing. Again, we're pickleheads. We love to hear the details and the backstory and everything. And so we really appreciate your time. Thank you for coming on with us.
Yeah, dude, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I enjoyed it.
Man, that was a great interview with Colin.
Sick.
Shared a lot of knowledge. That was cool.
Yeah, I was super impressed with the tips that he had. I think they're super beneficial for all players, whether you're pro or whether you're amateur.
Yeah, for sure.
So hopefully you guys enjoyed that as much as we did. So we're going to head into the next section, which is the Pickleball Playbook tip. So I run the account Pickleball Playbook. So we're always going to have a tip that we put in to each of our podcasts. And this one comes from Ben Johns. So this is probably my favorite quote.
Who's that? Ben who?
Ben who? This is my favorite quote from Ben, and I'm paraphrasing. But pretty much what he says is, so often amateur players will go out and drill, and they're working on something. They're working on a specific shot, and they'll hit it until that shot starts to feel good. And then they're like, okay, let's move on to the next thing. And what Ben has to say about that is, once it starts feeling good, you need to now hit 1,000 of those. And I think that that's an extremely important tip to focus on, is make sure that you're not just hitting until it feels good. It's like, once it feels good, then it's time to grind, baby. You got to get down and hit 1,000 more, and then it'll start to develop and become better. So that is the Pickleball Playbook tip of the day.
And follow Pickleball Playbook, right? On Instagram.
Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. We're everywhere.
If you want to get better, follow it. Another thing I wanted to bring up, if you don't mind, let's talk a little bit about MLP, Major League Pickleball. That's coming up this coming weekend. So that's going to be March 23rd through 26th. Last tournament in Arizona, Mad Drops took it, which was surprising to me. Yeah, that's not who I chose. And Julian has just stepped up his game even since then. He's had some iffy tournaments here or there, and then these last few have been solid for him. I know he got silver in mixed with his significant other in the cold tournament in Minnesota.
Yeah.
He's had some good results. He did lose to Colin Schick, which was cool. Again, that's just amazing that he got a silver medal.
Yeah. Insane.
First PPA tourney. But let's talk a little bit about that, if you're fine with it. And I kind of want to go over our predictions. Maybe we go over like top 3, who we think our top three will be that have a chance of taking
gold,
it.
silver, and bronze.
Yeah.
Mad Drops, all of their players. So you got Thomas Wilson and Julian Arnold that have done really well in tournaments since the MLP together. And then you have Catherine Parento, who's just getting medals everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's like they're a pretty stacked team, and they were definitely underestimated, I think, going into that. So predictions-wise, my top three, I have to go with the Pioneers this time. I think that they're going to take it because you have Ben and Tyler.
It's so hard to bet against Ben, man.
It's hard. You know Ben's going to perform, and he did last time. I think that his team felt the pressure of playing with him and not so much let him down, but I think that they definitely felt the pressure and just couldn't perform at his level. But I think now that they've had some time to practice together, play together more, that they'll be able to step up near his level. And I mean, you have some solid players on that team. You got Etta Wright and what's her first name? Megan. Okay. And you have Megan Dazan, who are fantastic doubles players. So they're going to be able to back up their guys, especially now that they're more comfortable with each other, which is what I think. And then you got Tyler, who is, you couldn't pick a better right-sided player other than Colin, obviously, for Ben. And so I just see them matching up super, super well together. And then you got Tyler in singles. He's a singles beast. Etta surprised me last time with her singles. She did really well. Obviously, Ben's a beast at everything. And then Dazan's the only worry with singles, not so much a singles player. And I think everybody knows that. But that's why I'd put them at the top spot. Who's your top pick?
Same, man. I hate to be the same. But for a few other reasons, too.
Okay.
So I don't bet against Ben. I just can't bet against the guy. He's a winner. Obviously, he has all the skills and everything, but he's also a winner. He gets it done. I know he didn't win last time. I think he's going to take it this time. Tyler, too, having him on the right side, like you said, it's still interesting, slightly interesting that Ben chose Tyler when his brother was available still.
Oh,
so Colin was still available. It's interesting, but Tyler is a better mixed player. No offense to Colin, still the best right side men's player in the world, in my opinion, probably in everybody's opinion.
It's in my opinion too.
But Tyler is a super consistent men's player. He doesn't have anything flashy. Yeah, he earnies here or there. But he doesn't have any. He's just going to be solid. He's going to hit the ball back a billion times and kind of let Ben do his thing, which we saw.
100 earnies.
Yeah, and then take care of it and put away after Ben sets it up, put away the earnies. Yeah. And then let's see, Sheehan Dazan, she might be the weak link on the team. No offense to her, but as long as she's consistent, I think they'll be okay. Etta Wright has really stepped her game up. She kind of just appeared out of nowhere. And again, I don't bet against Ben.
Yeah.
What's your number 2 pick?
So my number 2 pick, it was between two, but I got to go with Mad Drops for number 2 pick.
Who was it between?
It was between Mad Drops. Well, that's my third, so I can't even say it. I'm not going to say it yet. You guys have to wait. But I had to pick Mad Drops because all around they have such a solid team in singles and in doubles. You got Thomas Wilson, who's a singles genius, doubles genius. You got Julian Arnold, mega, extremely, extremely good at singles, extremely good at doubles.
Especially lately.
You got Catherine.
He proved that last MLP.
Yeah. You have Catherine Parento, who, in my opinion, at the current moment, I think that she's the number 1 girl. Annalee's up there, obviously, really close, but I think Catherine's passed her up this past few weeks.
That's a bold statement there.
I'm there. I'm with you, Catherine.
Oh, she's been on fire.
She's been on fire. She's medaling at everything. And, yeah, she's been playing with different partners in every tournament, too, and
still medaling.
She's bringing them with her.
She got gold with with Big Papa Jimmy.
Yep.
She got silver with Tyson. I love Tyson. He's the one that I first started following when I came into pickleball. I don't think he's as solid of player, especially in mixed, as some of the other guys, but still came out with silver in that tournament, and I think Catherine had a lot to do with that.
And then she just took out Anna Lee in singles. So it's like that tells you how good she is at singles because she just took out the number one singles player. So, yeah, she's on fire. And then you have Irina. Irina's the only reason that I put him at the number 2 spot. I think that she's really solid at doubles, but just her singles game is obviously not there. And she's, I mean, out of all the girls, she's not the best for, movement in the singles aspect. I think that she can hold her own in the doubles. And her and Thomas Wilson make a really good team together, I think, too. But, yeah, I'd have to put him in that second spot.
I got to disagree slightly. I mean, we know Tereshchenko's record in MLP. Just having her on the team will almost get you a win.
That's a good point. I haven't thought about that.
And she is good at singles, but if you stack her up against some of the best, then probably not. But that's a good pick. I hope we didn't pick the same teams. By the way, we did not consult each other.
Who is your number 2? It is Mad Drops?
Number 2 for me is also Mad Drops.
Okay.
It's just hard to pick them apart. They learned what's coming to my mind right now is did you see the last interview when they interviewed him after they won the gold?
Yeah.
And Thomas went to give Irina the awkward high five, and she didn't notice him at all.
And yes, and he high-fived himself.
But I mean, those guys are so solid. Those two didn't even have to play together. Or maybe they played together only once. They only had to play one mixed match to win it all.
Right.
So they took care of it in men's, women's, and then the first mixed was always Catherine and Julian. And Julian just feeds off of energy. And MLP is the best place to find that energy.
I think so too. Yeah.
So it's hard to bet against them, but at the same time, it's even harder to bet against Ben, in my opinion. I think he's coming back with vengeance. So we'll see what happens. All right, your third pick.
Okay, third pick. I have to go with the hard eights. So you got Riley Newman, Lindsay Newman, who they're going to do really, really well together. They did good in this tournament today that just happened.
And Riley didn't play in the first one.
Riley didn't play in the first one. Yeah, we didn't even see the hard eights there. So, I mean, yeah, they're going to get bronze or maybe even do better. And then you have AJ. And I know that AJ and Riley have played together. The two that I know of, one was in Vegas. They took out Ben and Colin, which is
I was there.
As good as it gets. Yeah, you were actually there,
yeah.
Huh? Yeah, that's sick. And then they played them at Red Rock in the finals, and they got silver, and it was close. It was
so
really
close.
good. It's a super, super good match. But, yeah, they're one of the top doubles teams, I think, together. They're going to win a lot of matches. And then who's Lindsay's partner?
Mary Brasha.
Okay. She's the one that had the carousel shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's on Pickleball Playbook, by the way. Yeah, she's sick.
Yeah, that's fun.
I see them doing well together. Obviously, a lot of people say that Lindsay's not the best at women's doubles, but I think she's freaking solid. So I personally think that they'll do well together.
I might be one of those people that say that if I had to pick. And Mary's not really a fire player either. I feel like what Lindsay is lacking is her ability to attack.
Right.
But she's probably one of the most consistent on
defense.
Tour. I mean, you could hit her 1,000 balls and try to put them away on her, and she's going to get the majority of them back over the net. But as far as bringing that aggression and winning the point, I think she relies on Riley and mixed a lot to take care of that. So that'll be interesting on the women's side. But AJ and Riley is a nasty combo. I know that AJ has played with Lindsay. They played in those, what are those tournaments in Arizona? Tuesday night, pickleball, or whatever. They
it's
played
on
together
streamed on YouTube.
So they have a little bit of experience playing together there too. it's hard to bet against Riley too. He's one of the best out there.
His freaking consistency is just unreal. People just hit overheads at him.
Yeah.
And he's going to get it back. They have to go to his partner. So it's going to be his partner that ultimately lets him down.
Yeah.
And that's why I think there's so much drama with people being his partner, is they don't like it, because it's like Riley's going to get after you because he just hit 18 in and then you screwed up the point. It's typically going to be you when you're playing with Riley. He's going to hit the shot in. So
it sounds like in a not cool way, he's not very good at being nice to his partners. That may have been what happened with Anna Bright. We're speculating, but he did announce recently that she was the one that initiated the breakup. So I think he said something like, "I'd never been dumped before," or something like that.
Yeah, Riley's a competitor, and he's fantastic at basketball. I've been watching footage of him playing basketball.
Oh, really?
He's so good. But it kind of reminds me of like a Kobe Bryant attitude, or just, I mean, basketball's a different sport, but you have it where
win or die.
Yeah, win or die. Like, they don't care about their anybody's feelings or anything like that, which I think is honestly pretty cool. But yeah, from a viewer's standpoint and from another player's standpoint, I think that they have a harder time with that in a pickleball atmosphere. But I love it. I think it's good to have in the pickleball atmosphere, because pickleball shouldn't just be this boring sport where it's like tennis. I think that we need to make it more andiamo and have some more shiz in there. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So that was the third pick. Okay,
that was your third?
No.
Okay, what's your third?
No, I have a different pick.
I was between two. So let me tell you really quick.
Yeah.
My other third was Milwaukee Mashers.
Oh, really? Nope.
Okay.
Nope, it wasn't. I was big on them before the first MLP, and then seeing how they performed in that one, I don't know. Maybe they'll do better. Maybe they'll surprise me. But my third pick would be the Florida Smash.
Okay.
I'm really big on Travis Rettenmeier. He's a super underrated player. Everybody's like tossed him to the side. But you give him a good partner like Colin, and he played well with Colin. That's their first time playing together. Now they've warmed up. Now they know how to play with each other, at least to a certain point. I think they're going to bring some fire, man. And they have two females, too, that are giants in the game, even though Georgia's only, I think she's 16, maybe she's 17 now. But she doesn't get mentioned as much because you hear about Anna Lee a lot. But an incredible player, fast hands, probably because she's always hitting with her brother. And then with Jessie Irvin in there too, it's a good mix. I think they can do really well. And I wonder if they'll switch it up a little bit. I think the majority of the time last time, Irvin played with Colin. I almost wonder if they'll mix it up a little bit and have her play with Rettenmeier, but we'll see how that goes. I mean, Rettenmeier can win with anybody if you just give him somebody solid. In this last tournament in Florida, I think he played with Austin Chick-fil-A or whatever his last name that no one's ever heard of. Nice guy, not dogging on him at all. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but I mean he can do well with pretty much anyone. I mean, give him one top or close to top guy, and he's gonna win. So and after watching him in person too, this might be a good time to bring up also. I went to PPA Mesa a few weekends ago, and and during the mixed day, I watched Rettenmeier play, and I think I mentioned this to you earlier. His third shot drive versus drop is probably like 90-10, maybe 95-5 in favor of the drive. His drive is solid, and it's there, and he gets to the net, man. He just gets to the net. So I'm big on him, big on those guys. I think Florida Smash. I mean, obviously they have a chance to win it all also, but I got them in the third spot.
Yeah, after listening to you, I'm going to change. No, I'm just playing. I'm sticking with it. But yeah, they definitely replaced Milwaukee for the fourth. I do think that can be a solid team. But yeah, I'm excited to see what what Travis can do with Colin. Hopefully they can
Yeah.
get some W's.
Yeah. And Colin does have the singles experience too. I know he doesn't play in the tournaments now, but I've watched lots of old footage too. He's actually very good.
He has to be. He's top 700 tennis player.
Yeah.
So he's going to be good at singles. He'll have the strategy. So it's just if he can hit the shots.
And Travis is good at singles too. Jessie is the only one that's not. Georgia's a great singles player.
Yeah, she is.
Jessie's trying to figure it out. I know she's played at least one singles PPA since then. So we'll see what's up there. What else do we have?
I think that's it. Right?
Cool. Very cool. All right. Well, thank you for listening. We appreciate you guys. You can follow Picklehead on all major platforms. You can, again, follow Pickleball Playbook if you want to learn tips and tricks. And if you'd be so kind as to subscribe, we would appreciate it.
100%.
Later, Pickleheads.